Okay, all right. Welcome to Action and Inertia, everyone, a research podcast where each episode we invite our guests to share their unique and valuable opinions on human behavior in response to change. I am your host, Kimberly Logan, and today we are honored to have with us Bockman.
How y'all doing?
So Bockman, why don't you start us off with introducing yourself to us, letting us know what you're passionate about and where your subject matter expertise lies.
Okay, so my name is Bockman. I'm a producer, DJ, music nerd, music head. That's pretty much my thing. Nice and simple, straightforward.
Nice. Awesome. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We're excited to have you. So just a quick refresher for everybody out there. The goal of our podcast is twofold. First, we want to inspire at least one person to actively lean into change. And secondly, we want to gather information to create a database of human experience and opinions that can be used as like a reference tool or a toolkit for folks who are experiencing change. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump into the first question, Bockman.
All right.
So in the face of change, right, what motivates a person to choose action or inertia?
I would probably say the truth. It's always the truth. Whether it's good, it's bad, there always has to be something that you weren't aware of that has to come to your attention for you to actually want to change.
I like that. The truth, just straight up. I like, succinct.
It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be bad. It just has to be something that you just, weren't aware of, in some way, somehow the stars aligned and brought it to your attention.
So let me, before we get into like the second research question, that kind of makes me think of how I kind of imagined the framework for the podcast, which was, like observing that change is constant, right? So I don't think anybody would argue with that. And then there seems to be like a broad categorization of like how people are approaching it. So in my mind, that's either they're, like you said, like blissfully unaware of that change is happening, or they are aware and they're taking some kind of action, or they're aware and they're inert. They're actually, in a sense, like actively resisting change, right? So like, can you talk about that a little bit in like a lot in line with like your response about truth and kind of, how that kind of inspires one?
So what do you mean, like one more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so so what I'm hearing you say is like, once you know the truth, right, that's kind of like your jump off point, like you're gonna take action. So I guess I'm thinking my sub question is, what about those folks that know the truth but that actually kind of like freezes them, that like cripples them or like pushes them into a state of inertia? What do you think about that?
That's a great question, actually.
That's cool, because I mean, I kind of know that like you're a very action oriented person, right? And I'm like a lot like you. So I mean, and it's cool, just maybe from what you've seen and how like other people kind of move through something like that. And I think there's like a measure of like inertia in and of itself, maybe being like the jump off point, like maybe you need a second to kind of digest the truth.
Because that's the thing. I mean, not everybody reacts right away. I mean, sometimes it's got to soak in, sometimes it takes time. I mean, there's definitely been times I can even say in my life where some kind of truth has been brought up to me and I deliberately ignored it until it came to a point I couldn't ignore whatever it was anymore.
Yeah. Like a rock and a hard place, right?
Yeah, I don't think that has so much to do with my answer. I think that just has to do with your willpower. How bad do you want to do whatever it is you want to do?
Okay. All right. So the second question following up to that, right, is considering then like these very kind of responses to change, what do you think is lends itself to a more like holistic approach to like wellness and looking at wellness like your whole life system, right? Like, so is it more beneficial to lean into action or, you know, inertia? Or like, is it somewhere in between?
So my answer to that was consistency. I think consistency is the way to go. Whether it, I mean, once again, it's up to whoever interprets it. But I feel that the only way to actually make something change is to be constant, to constantly want a certain thing. And it doesn't mean you have to do the whole task all at once. Maybe you do something little and try to, you know, get the cycle to go for however many weeks at a time until you get that down, and then you move on to the next thing, whatever the goal is, you know.
Yeah.
Prime example is like losing weight. You know, if you're an overweight person like I am and I'm working on now, you know, you can't just do it all at once because you'll probably tank if you're used to, you know, pretty much not caring or, you know, whatever it is you do. Like you build routines and you don't even realize that you have these routines.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I say consistency because if you take something small, whatever it may be, and you just keep working on that small thing until you get it down, suddenly that big drastic change that, you know, you want to happen doesn't become so big anymore.
Yeah, I love that. I agree. I actually agree. And I think that's like really connected to kind of that first goal that I've set for the podcast, which is really to inspire people to actively lean into change. And I love that you bring that up because I really look at that as exactly how you describe that, like with consistency, with kind of like taking those bite-sized pieces and just really committing to continuing. That like that's really how people can become empowered to kind of lean into those like larger changes, right? Yeah. So love that. And then the last question is what traits exist, in your opinion, from your perspective, what traits exist in people who consistently, to use your word, choose action?
I'm going to say discipline and willpower. Always. I think everything you could possibly want in your life is all mental. And if you tell yourself you want it, if you really want it, no matter how bad you want it, you're going to find a way to get it.
Yeah.
You're
I
going to
love
find a
that.
way.
Yeah, it's like I always think about that, like everything that we have in the world that isn't like a living organism, right? Like a plant or a person or whatever. Everything that we have literally began as like an idea in somebody's mind, like skyscrapers, houses, the way we live in them, cars, cups and plates, knives and
Exactly.
forks, right? Like all of that stuff that like you don't even give a second thought to is like exactly like you're saying, like it's all started in your mind, right? And I even I was reading or watching something about like Olympic athletes, and they were saying, um, you know, really kind of what separates them from other athletes performing at a lower level is how many times they are able to imagine every scenario they might be in. So it's not even like research actually has shown that it's not even like the physical running or swimming or whatever, skiing or whatever the sport. It's actually the mental practice of like really going like running that drill in your mind over and over again that kind of builds that empowerment and builds that kind of like thing. So I love that.
Yeah, I actually learned that, believe it or not, from reading about boxers. I read a lot of biographies on all heavyweight boxers, and the one thing about everybody I've ever read, whether it be Mike Tyson, George Foreman, you know, Joe Frazier, like all these people, the thing they have in common is they all have absolutely nothing in the beginning. There's no like there's nothing, they don't have anything. They're poor, they live in some kind of like wild situation where they're not even in like a project situation. They're just like homeless in some random abandoned building, eating, you know, whatever scraps their mothers or fathers or whoever they live with can provide. And these guys end up being the heavyweight champions or welterweight, whatever their division is in the world. That's literally like the ultimate rags to riches story. You start with absolutely nothing. You wanted this thing so bad that no matter what anybody told you, no matter what your financial situation, your mental situation, whatever it was that these people have, they don't let it affect them. They still go and they still get the bag, and they succeed. So I, especially in music and DJing and all those things, like I definitely hold boxers to a higher regard because I feel nobody's got heart like a boxer.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. So we've made it through all the questions. I always like to just kind of ask the guests if there's anything else they want to add that came up in the conversation. No pressure. You don't have to, as signing off before we sign off.
No, I think we just about covered it. I think
all
we
right,
did it.
Great. Thank you again so much for being here and sharing your perspective. It's so valuable to me, so valuable to this work, to this research. So for all the folks out there, thank you again for watching. Thanks for being here. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support this research, please share the podcast with others, post about it on your social media, leave us a rating or review. You can find us on YouTube at Action and Inertia, on Instagram at Action and Inertia, and at actionandinertia.com. So until we meet again, signing out. Bye.